Hello, my name is Bob and I'd like to welcome you once again to another episode on the White Dog Garage YouTube channel. This episode is another in my occasional motorcycle series. I own two 1100cc Suzuki motorcycles. Much as I love them, I don't get to ride them near enough. And one of the problems I'm constantly facing, particularly as their batteries get older, is the fact that because they're not ridden, they're not getting their batteries charged enough. Particularly with the Katana over there, she's a powerful motor, and particularly in the middle of winter, is not an easy start for a battery that's not quite all there. So I have to end up connecting a battery charger, and this is not a simple thing. Batteries in bikes built after, say, 1980 are buried in the interior of the motorcycle. To get at them, you usually have to remove a certain amount of the motorcycle. This is particularly a problem if you need to connect a battery charger to the battery. In this episode, I'm going to show you how I have made and fitted external battery charging plugs to these two motorbikes. So this is the GSX 1100E. It is on the charger at the moment, just topping up the battery. To get at the battery, I have to remove the airbox and also manoeuvre it around the brake master cylinder, etc. When you get into more modern bikes, there's a lot more stuff usually be removed to get at the battery. I'll show you the Katana later in the episode, but it's actually getting a new battery for its troubles. The battery in it's just got a bit too old. Now what I plan to do here is to run a cable with a plug up to here, which will sit under the seat. It'll just be a matter then of removing the seat to charge the bike, to connect up a battery charger. And this episode's just going to be about building the leads, fitting the leads, and showing how it would work with the battery charger in the future. I will also show the preparation from scratch and the fitting of a new bike battery. So stay tuned. Here I have assembled the components to make the two sets of leads. My colour coding is red for positive and black for negative. I have 4 Anderson or high current plug pins, 4 ring terminals, 2 black cables, 2 red cables, 2 inline standard ATS blade fuse holders, and some heat shrink tubing. I start with the negative lead, stripping one end to take a ring terminal, which I then fit and crimp in place. I then strip the other end. I then fit an Anderson plug pin and crimp it in place as well. Here I am using a cable crimping tool because I have one, but these pins are small enough to be crimped with ordinary crimping pliers as well. I then repeat this process for the second negative lead. Making up the positive leads, I first strip a wire end of one of the inline fuse holders to fit an Anderson plug pin. Next, I cut a short length of heat shrink and slide it over the stripped insulation end of the inline fuse holder. I then fit the Anderson plug pin and crimp it in place. The plugs will be directly connected to the battery and will always be live. I will be fitting 10 amp fuses. The batteries in these bikes run to less than 200 cold cranking amps and thus should be recharged at only 2 to 3 amps. The 10 amp fuse gives a bit of room to accommodate any surges when the charger is connected. I repeated this operation on the second fuse holder. Next, I stripped the insulation from one end of the red cables and fitted those ends with a ring terminal inch, crimping them in place, this time using crimping pliers. Off camera, I've soldered the ring terminals and Anderson pins of all the wires, as well as butt splicing and then soldering the cable joins on the positive leads. For the positive leads, I have then slid the heat shrink over the ring terminal base and the cable joins, and I'm using a heat gun to fix it in place. With the leads made, I insert the pin ends into their respective position on the Anderson plugs. And if you're interested in more information on Anderson plug hookups, then take a look at part 2 of my video series on building a portable 12-volt auxiliary battery box. Here I am fitting the harness to the GSX 1100E. Pretty straightforward process. I removed the screws from the battery and in sequence fitted the red positive and black negative wires to their respective battery terminals, refitting the screws and then screwing them down. I then refitted the air filter box, doing up its mounting bolt and then screwing up the hose clamp securing the inlet hose. I'm running the wires at the side of the rear mudguard, and they will be curled around and sit in a frame recess under the seat. The Katana is getting a new battery, and surprisingly, that is also the name of the battery that I am fitting. The battery type I'm fitting is a YB14L-A2. I use the same battery in both bikes. This battery comes dry from the manufacturer with a bottle of concentrated sulfuric acid also in the box, which you use to fill the battery before you fit it. The box holding the bottle of acid warns you profusely about the dangers of sulfuric acid, and it is good sense to heed these. Safety glasses are a must, and if I didn't have such a weather-beaten old face, I would probably wear a face shield as well. Concentrated sulfuric acid burns skin quite quickly, so be warned. The battery is packed dry and is sealed to the atmosphere as well. So I start by removing the warning label covering the cell plugs. Then I remove the plug covering the vent. As this happens, it's not unusual to hear a hiss of air, as a sealed battery usually has a slight vacuum inside. Then I use pliers to pull up all of the cell plugs. Lead acid batteries start to age the moment the acid is added. To enable retailers to sell a fresh battery, the batteries are shipped dry and the acid added later, either by the retailer or in this case by me. I hear that in Britain now, you have to apply for a license to purchase or have concentrated sulfuric acid, and it's an involved process not unlike applying for a gun license. So I guess any viewers I have over there won't be doing this, but maybe that will change with Brexit. Inside the acid box is a bottle within a plastic bag which contains more than enough acid to fill this battery. The bottle is well sealed, so there should be no acid leaked into the bag, and I then cut the top of the bag and remove the acid bottle. Now I move to adding the acid. Notice I've now done gloves for this purpose. This bottle has a red pouring spout which gets attached to a nipple opposite the bottle lid. The nipple is sealed and I cut the top off it using the side cutters on the pliers. I then press on the tube that will be used as the pouring spout. There is a seal under the cap which I also remove. Once the seal is removed, I replace the cap but only screw it on a few turns so that air will be allowed past it as the acid is poured into the battery. Then it is on to filling the battery. The red spout bends and thus makes it easy to position it in the plug hole at the top of each cell. It pays not to rush the filling process, and on the first pass I only aim to fill to the lower level line on the side of the battery. As the acid enters the cell, gas is given off by the battery plate. The gas given off is hydrogen, and this process of course will need to be done in a well ventilated area with no ignition sources present. Wipe up any acid spills as you go, and move the bottle as required to easily reach each cell in turn. This is a bit of a close-up shot showing the gas coming off the plates. Over a period of 20 to 30 minutes, as the plates in the battery equilibrate with the acid and gas evolution declines, I will gradually top up each of the cells to the upper level line. At this stage, I also go along and lightly tap the sides of the battery to release any trapped gas bubbles. Don't bother keeping your leftover acid just in case or for a rainy day, as any top-up from now on requires demineralised water. Following a final top-up, I reinsert the cell plugs and the battery is ready to be fitted to the bike. There is a hose that attaches to the vent on the top side of the battery, and I fit this as I lower the battery into place. I always fit the positive leads to the battery first, including this time the lead for the charging plug. I then fit the negative leads to the battery, again including the corresponding lead from the charging plug. I then reroute the charging plug wires to the side of the mudguard and refit the airbox. Then I fit the front seat mount. Before reattaching the rear brake fluid reservoir. And finally, the side cover. Then with the seat back on, it's time to see if she will start. It's been over a year since I filmed the original footage showing the making of the leads and the setting up of a new battery, filling it with acid, etc. I originally edited this footage probably a good 6 to 8 months ago, and then the computer I was using to edit it crashed. I didn't lose the original footage, but I certainly lost the video that I put together. You can hear more about the crash in Bobtails 1, my first and probably last vlog. However, moving on, here we are, almost over a year later, and it's been in action and it's worked out quite well. Here in Australia, we're currently in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic and we're in lockdown. So recreational motorcycling, in the wisdom of the government, is not allowed, even though it's a single person sort of activity. And so the bikes generally remain parked. And this is another area where the charging plugs have come into their own. I can maintain the batteries fully charged while the bikes are not able to be used. So after putting the leads together, I also set up a charging plug on my battery charger, or on this battery charger. Very simple. You just easily connect to the one on the bike, like so, and off you go. Of course, you want to be able to use a battery charger on a bare battery, and I have just taken the original clamps, put another charging or another connector on them, and that just connects, and just use it like a normal battery charger. Probably the thing you need to be aware is these are high current plugs, a bit of an overkill for charging or for the sort of power that flows through, or you should be charging your motorcycle battery at. However, if you're doing truck batteries or car batteries, it pays to have a plug that can take a lot more amperage. So if all you were doing with motorcycles, you can get away with a very small light plug because you only want to charge their batteries at 2 or 3 amps. But if you want to have it as a multi-purpose unit, you want a high current plug. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I'd welcome a thumbs up, and please share it widely. This channel is about making, maintaining, fixing and restoration projects. And if you like that sort of thing and you haven't already subscribed, well, think about subscribing. In fact, subscribe now. It's easy. Just hit the bar down below. While you're there, don't forget to ding the bell so that you're reminded by YouTube every time a new episode comes out on the White Dog Garage YouTube channel. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.